You wake up tomorrow and discover that everything you own, your home, your car, your bank account, even the clothes you and #39 re-wearing no longer belongs to you. Every contract you signed is void. You can and #39 T sue anyone. You can and #39 T be sued. Legally, you don't and #39 T exist. You are property. This wasn't and #39 T a nightmare. This was the reality for every married woman in Tudor, England. And the king, who beheaded 2 of his wives, he was just the most visible enforcer of a system that had already erased the legal existence of half the population. This is the story of Coverture, the law that turned marriage into ownership and women into possessions. What you and #39 about to discover will make you see Henry Roman VIII and #39's reign in a completely different light. Because while history remembers the 6 wives who died or were divorced, it forgot the hundreds of thousands of ordinary women who suffered something arguably worse. Legal death while still breathing. If you and #39 redrawn to legal records buried in court archives and documentation that reveals how power actually worked, not the sanitized version they taught in school, then every view, every subscription helps us uncover more accounts like this one. We dig through Tudor court records and legal manuscripts scholars have overlooked for centuries. Now, back to the story, because what we and #39 about to uncover makes every injustice you and #39 heard of look temporary. Consider yourself in 1535, standing in a small parish church in Yorkshire. You and #39 19 years old, the daughter of a prosperous wool merchant. Your father spent years teaching you the trade. You know how to negotiate with shepherds, judge the quality of fleece, keep account books. You and #39 been running parts of his business since you were 15. Today is your wedding day. You and #39 remarrying the son of another merchant family. You and #39 wearing your finest gown purchased with money you earned yourself. In a leather purse hidden beneath your skirts, you carry the coins you and #39 saved over the years. After the ceremony, there will be a feast paid for partly by your dowry of 200, a fortune in an era when a skilled craftsman might earn 5 a year. The priest begins the ceremony. You repeat your vows. Your new husband slips a ring onto your finger, and in that instant you cease to exist. Not physically, of course. Your heart still beats. Your lungs still draw breath. But legally, you have just died. The woman who walked into this church, the merchant and #39's daughter with her own earnings, her own property, her own legal identity, has vanished. In her place stands a femme covert, a covered woman, and the law is very clear about what that means. The doctrine of coverture stretched back centuries, inherited from Norman French law after the conquest of 1066. The legal theory was almost poetic in its cruelty. A husband and wife were one person under the law, and that one person was the husband. Let and #39's be absolutely clear about what this meant in practice. That 200 dowry you brought to the marriage, it and #39's his now, not ours, his, the coins in your purse, his, the gown you and #39 wearing. Legally, he owns it. Any wages you earn in the future from weaving, from selling goods at market, from any labor, those wages are his property from the moment you receive them. But the erasure goes deeper than property. You cannot enter into a legal contract. If you try to make an agreement to sell goods or services, it and #39's void. You cannot sue someone who wrongs you. Your husband must do it on your behalf. You cannot be sued for debts you incur because legally you and #39 not capable of incurring debt. If someone slanders you, damages your property, or even assaults you, you cannot take them to court. Your husband is your only legal voice. When you go to the market to sell wool after your wedding, the buyers are confused. They and #39 V done business with your family for years, but now they and #39 told they must deal with your husband. When you try to collect payment for goods you sold before the marriage, money owed to you, you discover you have no legal right to collect it. Those debts are now your husband and #39's property. Your father had set aside a small workshop with looms and spinning wheels as part of your marriage portion. You and #39D plan to run it yourself, employing other women, building a business. But undercover, you cannot legally employ workers, sign contracts with suppliers, or even rent the building without your husband and #39's involvement. If your husband is supportive, he might allow you to continue the work, acting as your legal proxy. But if he and #39's indifferent or actively hostile or simply incompetent at business, there and #39's nothing you can do. The workshop that was meant to give you independence has become just another piece of his property portfolio. And if he and #39's cruel, if he drinks away your earnings, if he gambles with your inheritance, if he beats you and you try to leave, the law offers you almost no recourse. Divorce in the modern sense, Dosen and #39T exist. Legal separation was possible, but rare, expensive, and didn't and #39T restore your legal identity or your property. For the vast majority of women, farmers' wives, craftsmen and #39's daughters, servants, laborers, there were no protections. They experienced coverture in its rarest, most absolute form. They had to hope their husbands would be kind, competent stewards of the family property. Hope was not a strategy, but for most women, it was the only option available. In Coverture, England, if you were born female and into a family with any property at all, your economic value who was calculated from birth, not your potential, not your talents, not your intelligence, your value as a commodity in the marriage market. Fathers kept ledgers. They recorded their daughter and #39's portions alongside livestock and land values. A first daughter might receive 100 marks, a second daughter perhaps 80. The calculations were precise, cold, and utterly transactional. England and #39's inheritance laws favored primogeniture. The eldest son inherited the family estate intact. Daughters received dowries, a one-time payment of money or property that would be their only inheritance. But remember, the moment they married, coverture ensured they couldn't and #39T control it. Envision a meeting in a prosperous London townhouse. Two fathers sit across a table, wine between them, documents spread out. They and #39 renegotiating their children and #39's future, and quote, my daughter brings 200 in coin plus household linens valued at 20, and quote, says the first man, a successful cloth merchant, and quote, she and #39's been trained in household management. She reads and writes, and she and #39's of excellent character. She and #39's 16, sir, and quote, the second man nods. He and #39's a minor gentleman with a small estate in Kent. The boy will provide her with a jointure, use of 1/3 of the estate should he possess her. She and #39'll have a chamber in the manor house, an annual allowance for clothing, and I and #39'll settle 20 on her immediately upon marriage. They might as well be trading horses. Notice what and #39's absent from this conversation. The young people themselves, the daughter and 39's feelings, her ambitions, her desires, irrelevant. This is a business merger, and the daughter is a combination of assets being transferred from one balance sheet to another. For daughters, this system was psychologically devastating. Their worth was explicitly quantified. A girl with a 200 dowry was literally worth twice as much as her sister with 100. The marriage market assigned them a price tag, and everyone knew it. When things went wrong, it was catastrophic. A merchant family with 3 daughters might have their business collapse. A ship sinks, a partner defaults, plague strikes. Suddenly, they cannot pay the promised dowries. The daughters become unmarketable. Men who had been courting them vanish. Marriage prospects evaporate. They face a future as unwanted dependents in their brother and 39's household, burdensome with no path to independence. The most famous example involved a queen. When Catherine of Aragon married Henry Roman VIII and 39's older brother Arthur in 1501, Spain paid an enormous dowry of 200 crowns, roughly 40,000, but Arthur died months later. Catherine and 39's parents demanded the dowry back. Henry VIII refused. For 7 years, Catherine lived in England in desperate poverty, her dowry paid but inaccessible, her status unclear, her future uncertain. Catherine and 39's experience, stuck between 2 kingdoms, 2 marriages, treated as a piece of disputed property, was exceptional in scale, but not in kind. Thousands of ordinary women experience similar disputes. Their lives caught in the machinery of dowry negotiations and inheritance law. The stories you and 39, rehearing Aaron and 39, taught in schools. They and 39, reburied in legal documents, court records, and church archives. The hidden history of how law transformed women into property. If you believe these voices deserve to be heard, subscribe now and turn on notifications. We and 39 only halfway through this story, and what comes next is even more disturbing. On July 11, 1533, Pope Clement VIII issued his verdict. Henry Roman VIII and 39's marriage to Catherine of Aragon was valid, and his marriage to Anne was invalid. Henry and 39's response was swift and absolute. He rejected papal authority entirely, declared himself supreme head of the Church of England, and sentenced Catherine to a slow, humiliating death as a non-person. Catherine, who had been Queen of England for 24 years, was stripped of her title. She was now Princess Dowager of Wales. She was forbidden from seeing her daughter Mary. She was moved from residence to residence, each one smaller and more uncomfortable than the last. Her household was reduced. Her income was cut. She was isolated, surveilled, and slowly broken. When she died in January 1536, many believed she had been poisoned. The truth was almost worse. She had been legally and socially murdered, erased while still alive. And every woman in England understood the message. Catherine of Aragon was the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, the most powerful monarchs in Europe. She was educated, intelligent, politically skilled, and beloved by the English people. For 2 decades, she had been a model queen. She had given Henry a surviving child, a daughter, Mary. She had even served as regent, commanding the defense against a Scottish invasion. None of it mattered. When Henry wanted a son and a new wife, Catherine became disposable. If a queen with royal blood, powerful family connections, and decades of faithful service could be cast aside, What security did any other woman have? The message rippled through every level of society. Merchants' wives whispered to each other at market. Noble women at court grew silent and afraid. Every married woman in England now knew with absolute certainty her position depended entirely on her husband and #39's continued approval. And that approval depended on things often outside her control, particularly her ability to produce male heirs. Let #39's be clear about the biological reality. A woman has roughly a 50% chance of conceiving a male child each pregnancy. In the Tudor period, approximately 15 to 20% of male children would die in infancy, and more would die before reaching adulthood. For a woman to produce even one surviving son was not guaranteed, but the pressure was enormous. A wife who produced only daughters was a failure. Not in the eyes of medicine or biology, but in the eyes of law, society, and often her own family. Henry #39's break with Rome had another catastrophic effect on women, the dissolution of the monasteries. Between 1536 and 1541, Henry #39's commissioners systematically shut down every monastery, priory, and convent in England. For monks, this was disruptive but manageable. Most were educated men who could find positions as parish priests or tutors. They received adequate pensions and could marry under the new religious settlement. For nuns, the dissolution was catastrophic. Nunneries had been one of the only places in Tudor England where women could live with genuine autonomy. Her nun was not subject to cover because she was not married. She answered to her abbess and her order, not to a father or husband. For educated women, for women who didn't #39's want to marry, for women who sought spiritual or intellectual life, the convent offered refuge. Consider Abbess Alice Montague of Barking Abbey. She presided over one of the wealthiest religious houses in England, managing vast estates, employing hundreds of people, wielding considerable local power. When the commissioners arrived in 1539 to dissolve her house, she was forced to surrender everything. Her pension of $133 per year sounds generous until you realize she had been managing an abbey worth over $1,000 annually. What was Alice supposed to do? She couldn't #39's marry. She had taken solemn vows. She had no family estate to return to. She had spent her adult life in religious service, not learning skills for secular life. Her pension placed her in a strange limbo, too much money for manual labor, not enough for independent gentility, and no clear social position. Multiply Alice #39's story by thousands. Young nuns, some who had entered religious life as children, old nuns who had spent 40 or 50 years in the cloister. They all faced the same crisis. Displacement into a society that had no place for them. The pensions nuns received were consistently smaller than those given to monks. Some nuns ended up destitute. The historical record contains heartbreaking petitions from former nuns begging for increased pensions, describing poverty and illness, asking for help that rarely came. The religious upheaval created a pervasive atmosphere of terror. The Treason Act of 1534 made it high treason to deny the king #39's supremacy over the church. But the law was written broadly. It criminalized not just actions but words in the domestic spaces where women lived: kitchens, bedchambers, sewing rooms. Private conversations could be dangerous. A woman who expressed sympathy for the old queen, who refused to acknowledge Anne Boleyn as legitimate queen, or who questioned the king and #39's religious policies risked accusations of treason and women were accused. Margaret Paul, Countess of Salisbury, was executed in 1541 at age 67. Partly for her family connections to the old royal line, but also for her suspected sympathy to Catherine of Aragon. Elizabeth Barton, the nun of Kent, was executed in 1534 for prophesying against the king and #39's remarriage. Anne Askew was tortured and burned at the stake in 1546 for her Protestant beliefs. For ordinary women, the fear was more mundane, but equally real. A woman who refused to swear the oath of supremacy could lose her position, her home, and her security. A woman whose husband was accused of treason might find herself and her children thrown into poverty with no legal recourse. In this system of comprehensive legal erasure, there was one dark, strange path to personhood for a woman. Her husband and #39's death. When a husband died, the legal covering of Ket was lifted. A widow returned to being a female soul, a woman alone. She could own property. She could make contracts. She could sue and be sued in her own name. She could run businesses, hire workers, and make binding legal decisions. For many women, this was the first time since childhood that they had legal recognition as individuals. Common law provided widows with dire rights, typically a life interest in 1/3 of the husband and #39's real estate. If her husband had been a craftsman or merchant, she might inherit his tools, his shop, his business relationships. The paradox was profound. A woman had to wait for her husband and #39's death to become a full person under law. Historical records reveal something fascinating. Widows often thrived economically. Take Joan Dance, a London brewer and #39's widow in the 1530s. When her husband died, she inherited his brewery. Within 5 years, she had expanded the business, bought 2 additional properties, and become one of the largest beer suppliers in her neighborhood. She hired workers, sued debtors, and managed complex commercial relationships. All things she legally couldn't and #39's have done as a married woman. Court records from Cuda, England, are full of widows. Widows suing to recover debts, widows running taverns and inns, widows working as drapers and haberdashers, widows managing rural estates. They appear in numbers far disproportionate to their percentage of the population, precisely because they were the only women with legal standing to engage in these activities independently. But this freedom was double-edged and dangerous. A widow was now solely responsible for her own survival. If her late husband had left debts, she might inherit those along with the property. If the business failed, she had no husband to fall back on. Younger widows, especially those with property, faced intense pressure to remarry. Family members might push them toward a new match. Unscrupulous men might court them aggressively, seeing a woman with property, but without a male protector, as an easy target. And if a widow did remarry, the cycle began again. The moment she said, and quote, "I do," and quote, Coverture descended once more. All the property she controlled as a widow, the lands, the business, the money would now belong to her new husband. She would return to legal non-existence. Think of Elena, widowed at 35 in 1528. Her husband, a successful goldsmith, left her his shop, tools, and materials. As a widow, Elena discovers capabilities she hadn't and #39's realized she possessed. Within 2 years, she and 39 running a profitable operation, taking on apprentices, even expanding into silver work. But the pressures mount. Her late husband and 39 family hints that she should remarry, preferably to his younger brother, to keep the property in the family. Her own family pushes her toward a wealthy mercer. Male goldsmiths in her guild resent her success and try to restrict her activities, arguing women shouldn't and 39 be full guild members, and she and 39 lonely. The prospect of companionship is tempting, but she knows marry again, and everything she and 39 built returns to Coverture. Her shop, her hard-won business success, all would fall under her new husband and 39 control. This was the widow and 39 dilemma: freedom or companionship, autonomy or security. For men, marriage offered both. For women, the choice was mutually exclusive. Not all widows had a Lelena and 39 options. Poor widows, elderly widows, and widows without valuable property faced desperate situations. Parish records from Tudor, England, are full of widows receiving poor relief, small payments from the church to keep them from starving. A widow and 39 survival often depended on the goodwill of relatives, neighbors, and parish officials, none of whom had any legal obligation to help her. What you and 39 re-witnessing is systematic legal erasure, a centuries-old system that treated women and 39 personhood as negotiable. If these forgotten stories are making you see Tudor history differently, share this video. The algorithm shows this content to more people when you engage with it. Let and 39 make sure these voices Aaron and 39 silenced again. The legal reality of cover was absolute, but the practical reality of Tudor life was more complex. Women found ways to work within, around, and occasionally against the system. In practice, many marriages functioned as economic partnerships. A merchant's and 39 wife might run the shop while he traveled. A farmer and 39 wife managed household production, brewing, dairy, textile work that generated significant income. These women were an and 39 legally empowered. They worked at their husband and 39 pleasure, subject to his authority. But the economic reality was that many families couldn't and 39 survive without women and 39 labor and skill. Some women pushed back directly and paid for it. Anne herself, before her fall, was notorious for her bold speech. She argued theology with Henry, interfered in political matters, and refused to play the submissive wife. Her behavior scandalized the court. It also gave her enemies ammunition. When Henry turned against her, her shrewish behavior and meddling in men and 39 affairs were cited as evidence of her unsuitability. She was executed on May 19, 1536, officially for adultery and treason. The charges were almost certainly false. Her real crimes were speaking too freely, failing to produce a male heir, and making powerful men uncomfortable. For most women, resistance wasn't and 39 about making grand statements. It was about small acts of economic preservation. A woman might hide money from a spendthrift husband, claiming she and 39 earned less than she had. A woman might run a small trade and pocket some of the earnings before giving them to her husband. Were these acts theft under Coverture? Technically, no. A wife couldn't and 39 steal from her husband because she legally couldn't and 39 own property, but morally, These women were reclaiming tiny pieces of autonomy in a system designed to deny them any. Some women tried to avoid coverture entirely by refusing marriage. Wealthy women who inherited property in their own right sometimes remained single to maintain control of their estates. They faced enormous pressure to marry, but if they could weather it, they could live as femmes sole their entire lives. Elizabeth I is the most famous example. She famously declared herself married to England and refused all suitors. But this wasn't and 39 just political theater. Elizabeth understood that marriage would destroy her power. Undercover, her husband would legally control her person and property. She couldn't and 39 risk it. Coverture didn't and 39 end with the Tudor. It didn't and 39 even end with the Stuarts or the Georgians or the Victorians. The legal doctrine that erased married women and 39's identities persisted in English law until the Married Women and 39's Property Acts of the late 19th century, more than 300 years after Henry Roman VIII and 39's death. The first significant reform came in 1870, allowing women to keep their own earned wages. Full property rights for married women didn't and 39's arrive until 1882. Think about that timeline. The system that turned women into legal property existed longer than the United States has existed as a nation. Women born in the Tudor period, raised under cover, married under coverture, died under cover, and their daughters, granddaughters, great-granddaughters, and great-great-granddaughters all lived under the same system. Coverture wasn't and 39's just a legal technicality. It was the legal expression of a deeper ideology that women were not fully human in the way men were. They were dependents, perpetual children requiring male guardianship. This ideology shaped everything. It justified women and 39's exclusion from universities, from professions, from political participation. If a woman couldn't and 39's legally sign a contract, how could she be a lawyer? If she couldn't and 39's own property, how could she be a merchant? If her legal identity was subsumed by her husband and 39's, how could she vote or hold office? The legal erasure enabled and justified social erasure. Women and 39's experiences were deemed unimportant, their voices irrelevant, their suffering invisible. When historians later told the story of the Tudor period, they told the stories of kings and parliaments and wars, all male domains, the quiet systemic oppression of women barely registered. History remembers Henry Roman VIII for beheading 2 wives, but the real body count was far higher and far quieter. For every queen who lost her head, 10,000 ordinary women lost their legal existence. The merchant and 39's daughter who watched her husband destroy her business. The widow who tasted freedom only to surrender it for companionship. The wife who died trying to birth the son that would make her valuable.